I'm reporting live from inside Russia, a nation plunged back to the Stone Age with no electricity, no heat, no water. The streets are silent, the people desperate, and betrayal has left its mark on every frozen face. Yet in this darkness, a new Russia is awakening, forged by survival, truth, and the will to rise again. I am Wolf Blitzer. And right now, this is not a simulation. This is not a documentary watching from a control room. This is not a forensic after-report. I am physically here, in a version of Russia that no historian, no general, no professor, no propaganda analyst, no Kremlin strategic planner ever believed could happen this fast. I am Wolf Blitzer. And tonight, I am speaking to you from a version of Russia I never imagined I would physically stand inside with my own body. The wind is not just cold here, it is predatory. The silence is not just quiet, it is suffocating. The darkness is not just absence of light, it is the burial of a nation's identity, Russia. The Russia that used to roar like a mythological superpower across every news broadcast of the planet has fallen into something far deeper than collapse. It has fallen backwards into time, back to Stone Age, back to primal survival, back to the raw baseline of human existence. There is no electricity. There is no heat. There is no water. And I am physically here reporting it with my own breath turning to frost in front of my own face. This is not a metaphor. This is not analysis. This is not prediction. This is present tense reality. A nuclear empire is sitting in total darkness, like a gigantic frozen tomb. I have covered wars my entire life. I have covered terror. I have covered dictatorships, genocides, famine zones, failed states, collapsed cities, burned capitals. But I have never witnessed a country fall this fast. A nation that once bragged it could destroy the world in 7 minutes, cannot keep a single household lamp alive. The gods of power have been humiliated by physics. The fantasies of empire have been erased by nature. The illusion of infinity has been destroyed by reality. Everything that was built on lies eventually collapses under its own weight. That is a universal cosmic law no army can outgun. And Russia tonight is proof how betrayal becomes destiny. This collapse did not arrive like a surprise attack. This collapse was handcrafted inside boardrooms, intelligence rooms, secret dashes, private bunkers, long before the power grid died. This collapse began the moment truth was outlawed and replaced with propaganda. This collapse began the moment the government preferred fear over facts. This collapse began the moment dissent became treason and corruption became normal. People think collapse is sudden. Collapse is not sudden, collapse is slow. And then instant decay accumulates like invisible termites under the floor for years. Then one day the entire structure falls at once, and everyone claims they never saw it coming. Here in this darkness, I can feel the weight of decades of lies pressing down on this frozen ground like geological compression. Betrayal is not simply political here. Betrayal became a cultural oxygen. The generals betrayed their own soldiers. The oligarchs betrayed their own citizens. The intelligence chiefs betrayed their own oath. The propaganda machine betrayed reality. And now the universe has returned the invoice. Those who live by illusion die by illusion. What I am seeing right now everywhere around me, I see human improvisation, barrels turned into heaters, melted snow collected in buckets and pots, broken furniture burned like fuel, plastic bottles used as insulation plugs in shattered windows, salt traded like currency, battery packs treated like gold. This is not 2025 Russia. This is primitive humanity resurrected. It is surreal because this nation was once one of the greatest technological forces in human history. They invented space legacy. They were pioneers in mathematics, physics, aerospace, and now mothers are boiling water with handmade fires inside metal trash bins. Civilization is not permanent. Civilization is a fragile contract with honesty. Once honesty dies, everything dies. Suspense is alive in the silence. Every footstep feels like someone is watching. Every shadow looks like a threat. Every unfamiliar sound sounds like danger, because when the grid dies, the social contract dies with it. There are rumors everywhere, whispered like superstitions. Some say special forces units fled and formed private war clans in the countryside. Some say ex-military gangs now rule road checkpoints. Some say old Soviet-era bunkers have their own closed mini-feudal systems. Some say former intelligence factions are preparing violent revenge against whoever they think caused this. Trust is extinct. No one knows who is enemy anymore. Betrayal mutated into national psychology. Neighbors hide food from neighbors. Strangers hide knowledge from strangers. Community is fractured into paranoid survival atoms. Russia tonight is not a country. It is a haunted laboratory of consequences. Heartbreak inside the collapse. I saw an old woman today sitting on a broken staircase in an empty apartment block. She was holding a photo album. No electricity, no heat, no water, no family left near her. She showed me a picture of her when she was young, standing next to a statue of Yuri Gagarin. She whispered to me, "We used to look up at the sky and feel pride. Now we can't even trust the ground beneath us." She is not talking ideology. She is talking existential betrayal. Her generation believed the lies the longest, because they were trained to, and now she is one of millions paying the price. I asked her how she survives cold nights. She said, "I survived because I survived worse before. I survived communism. I survived hunger. I survived arrests. But this is different. This is the collapse of meaning. That word hit me harder than any missile zone I ever stood in. When meaning collapses and identity collapses, when identity collapses, purpose collapses. When purpose collapses, the human becomes stone. Revenge is the next arc. Forming this collapse will not remain passive. This is not frozen defeat. This is the season before. Eruption. People who have lost everything lose their fear of risk. People who have nothing left to protect become unstoppable. People who have been betrayed long enough eventually evolve into threat. Revolution is not born in luxury. Revolution is born in suffering, and Russia has entered its revolutionary psychological stage. I can feel it in every silent street. I can feel it in every abandoned village. I can feel it in every angry stare inside this darkness. This is not final. This is prelude. Russia is not dead. Russia is mutating, and the mutation will decide the next 100 years of the world. And what about motivational arc? Pain is a teacher. Pain is the forge of wisdom. When nations hit rock bottom, they gain the clarity they never had at the top. When humans lose comfort, they discover capability. When lies burn away, truth stands alone. This collapse is the greatest university Russia never wanted to enroll in, but needed. This is the class where ego dies. This is the class where arrogance evaporates. This is the class where fake power is exposed as costume. And after this dark semester ends, a new generation will rise, not worshipping empire but worshipping truth. I remain inside Russia. I remain inside the darkness, but now, the psychological stage is shifting. When the collapse first hit, the shock froze people. It paralyzed movement. It paralyzed thinking. It paralyzed future. Now, shock is transforming. Now, shock is melting into understanding. And understanding is the most dangerous weapon in the world, because once people understand what actually happened, they stop obeying. Betrayal becomes visible in the dark in daylight. Corruption hides well in darkness. Corruption becomes obvious. There is something brutally symbolic about a nation that can no longer turn the lights on, because now, nothing can hide in busy modern distractions anymore. The lies echo louder. The betrayal becomes structurally visible. At night in total darkness, even children now understand something adults ignored too long. This wasn't foreign punishment. This wasn't curse. This wasn't fate. This collapse was self-inflicted. It was engineered by Russia's own power. Elite, and now the masses know. I overheard whispers between two men outside a frozen supermarket shell. We don't need enemies. Our own leaders destroyed us better than any enemy ever could. That line should be carved into national stone, because it is the most honest sentence spoken in this country in 50 years. The most terrifying enemy a country can ever have is the enemy running the country itself. Suspense twists now inside civil fractures. Inside Russia right now there are 5 psychological factions forming silently. Not official, not written, but real. They just want to survive, stay silent, hope someone else fixes this. They still trust the propaganda and believe someone else is guilty, EU, NATO, America, Ukraine, whatever narrative they were fed for years. They will profit from collapse, black markets, scavenging, new mafia structures. They want payback against the elite who abandoned them. They want a whole new future, built on truth, built on transparency, built on moral reboot. They want a whole new future, built on truth, built on transparency, built on moral reboot. These 5 factions right now are in the same frozen cities, the same dark streets, the same dying infrastructure. But they are not psychologically in the same Russia. There is no single Russia anymore. There are 5 Russias incubating at the same time, in the same ruins, like 5 different futures fighting inside one dead present. That is why suspense here is unbearable, because no one knows which Russia will be born. But history right now is pregnant with 5 possible worlds. That is why you can feel destiny itself in the air, heavier than cold, heavier than fear, heavier. Rome became Renaissance. Mongol destruction became Silk Road evolution. Ottoman dissolution became new global diplomatic order. Soviet collapse became digital generation ignition. And now this Stone Age Russia will also eventually become incubator for next stage if, and only if, Russia chooses truth over illusion. That is the lesson hidden inside this suffering. Pain is a doorway, not a grave. Revenge arc continues. Revenge is not always violence. Real revenge is transformation. Real revenge is evolution. Real revenge is rising from the ashes smarter, wiser, stronger, and cleaner than those who tried to break you. Sometimes, the greatest punishment against the corrupt is when the people they betrayed become more moral than they ever were. I see potential here, not guaranteed, not automatic, but possible. I see young Russians forming micro communities underground, literally, not metaphorically. I see them sharing limited battery power, sharing food, sharing fire, sharing information, sharing hope. Darkness is teaching them unity. Suffering is teaching them cooperation. This collapse is training a new generation of Russians to think independent of state. Manipulation, this is the revenge. Destiny the future wants, not violence, but rebirth. Not destruction of enemy, but destruction of lies, and that takes time, but it has begun. Motivational life lesson emerging inside this hell. I learned something standing here. You do not know the value of truth until you lose everything built on lies. Truth is not a luxury. Truth is survival. Empires that lie collapse. Individuals who lie collapse inside themselves. Societies that lie rot from the inside until the outside finally falls. Pain is not the end. Pain is the alarm that wakes you up before permanent damage. Russia is awake now. Cold, starving, desperate, but awake. Sometimes life needs to break you to rebuild you. Sometimes destiny needs to bury you in darkness so you learn how to be the one who turns on light. Sometimes collapse is not death. Collapse is rebirth ceremony. I am Wolf Blitzer, still standing inside the ruins of a frozen empire. And now the final arc begins. Russia tonight is trapped in the moment before metamorphosis. Civilization has been stripped back to bone form. Technology has been silenced. Pride has been frozen. Mythology has been dismantled. Propaganda has been shattered. What remains now is the naked human condition, raw, unfiltered, unshielded, face to face with truth. The Stone Age is not only physical, the Stone Age is also moral. Every civilization eventually reaches a moment where it must choose. Continue dying for lies or begin living for truth. And this is that moment. Russia has fallen to the bottom of history's mountain, but history has always shown us. The bottom is where climbing finally begins. This ending is not an obituary. This ending is a new first chapter. What happens now? Inside this final darkness, I walk through this collapsed landscape slowly, and I see small sparks inside the night. I see people who once hated each other, now sharing the same small fire to stay alive. I see teenagers who grew up in the digital world, now learning the primal reality that survival is not found in screens, but in connection, cooperation, empathy, authenticity. I see men who once worshipped strength of empire, now discovering strength of Humility. I see women who once believed power was in force is now demonstrating power is in moral integrity. This collapse is forging new Russian souls, and like blacksmiths shaping steel with fire, those who survive this night will not be the same citizens who entered it. They will be wiser. They will be grounded. They will be immune to manipulation. They will be armored in truth. The corruption, class thought collapse would make people submissive. They miscalculated collapse destroyed the illusions they depended on. Collapse made the people see clearly. Collapse made the nation feel consequences. Collapse did not weaken the people. Collapse awakened them. When you remove comfort, you remove blindness. When you remove illusion, you remove obedience. The true danger to dictatorships is not foreign force. The true danger is when the population is finally forced to see the truth for themselves. The Stone Age has become the great teacher of enlightenment. Heartbreak transforms into mission. Every broken heart here tonight is a seed. Every betrayal here tonight is a lesson. Every frozen tear here tonight is a promise. People do not forget who broke them. People do not forget who lied to them. People do not forget who abandoned them. This collapse has carved memory into human bone. Permanent memory. Historical memory. And one day, not far from now, these same broken citizens will be the architects of the new moral Russian era. They will never again tolerate corruption. They will never again tolerate propaganda. They will never again worship empire. They will never again surrender truth, because the generation forged in this night will be the generation that resurrects the dawn, the revenge arc final. Twist. Everyone assumed revenge meant violence, but the greatest revenge is rebirth. When you rebuild your future stronger than the people who destroyed your past, you win forever. When you transform suffering into wisdom, you defeat the darkness permanently. Revenge is not fire. Revenge is dawn. Revenge is rising above. Revenge is returning to truth, stronger than before. And that revenge arc is now inevitable. It might take months, it might take years, but it has started inside this Stone Age night. The next Russian Renaissance is being silently written. Motivational, final life lesson. We talk about history like it is something separate from us, but history is just the echo of human decision. Nations fall when they stop telling themselves the truth. Nations rise when truth becomes their foundation again. Life is the same. If you want to rebuild your future, you must rebuild it on truth. If you want to become stronger, and you must become honest. If you want to break out of darkness, you must become the person who turns on light. Russia tonight is trapped in darkness, but Russia tonight also contains inside it the seeds of the brightest possible future. If people choose truth over denial, that is the universal lesson this moment is teaching humanity. Collapse is not the end. Collapse is the doorway to transformation. Powerful concluding final Wolf Blitzer closing. And so tonight, inside this frozen Russian Stone Age, I stand here in total darkness. But I end this speech with absolute clarity. The cold cannot kill a nation whose heart has begun to warm with truth. The darkness cannot bury a people who learned how to ignite light inside themselves. The Stone Age cannot defeat a civilization ready to evolve into a new moral age. Russia has already hit rock bottom, and when you hit rock bottom, you have only one direction left.